and who else? Oh, Denzel. And we were talking about out of state investing, possibly Detroit family. But then Curtis chimed in and he had a great question and had a lot of discussion going on. So yesterday he asked the question about what is harder to manage stress or manage wealth. So Curtis, where did that question come from and kind of what was your thinking behind that?
Yeah, I kind of heard you guys' discussion, and then I thought back to, okay, what do I hear people in my everyday life complain about and the most? It's stress and and money. And so I was like, okay, well, which one is easier to manage? Because we know that there's stress in business or stress in life, right? And we're all trying to build wealth. That's why we're all in this community. But when you really step back and think about it, which one do you guys think is easier to manage, wealth or stress?
Mhm.
Who
Who's going
wants to go
first?
first? Yeah, let's go on. Let's see. Let's go to your right on me. So let's go to Ray then.
Yeah. Um, I think wealth is much easier for me, just because there's a lot of things that you can control when you're pursuing wealth, right? But stress, tends to come randomly, and they always come when it's the most unexpected. For me, anyways, right? And it's really what I found is it's really how you behave when it does come, and that's how I've found to kind of handle it the best, right? Because I'll give you some situations like when you're dealing with property stress, right, and things start hitting you at the same time. It feels like if you have a bad attitude about it, it makes the experience 100 times worse, right? But if you come at it as like, all right, here it comes, and then you see that it's coming as a trend that more is coming, right? You just gotta kind of embrace it, and then once you embrace it, it makes it a little bit easier to deal with. That's how I kind of deal with it.
Mhm.
I do just want to say good morning to everyone. Jumping over from the school call, a lot of excitement going on there today. I did see Curtis is streaming also, so if you can jump over there, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. I'm not sure, Dylan. I didn't check it. Are you streaming also?
I just switched it on,
Okay,
so I should be
cool.
streaming.
Okay, cool. So Dylan, did you get a chance to think about this topic? I think you were in the live or you joined the live stream yesterday, but I'm not sure if you're. But what is
I
your
probably
thoughts on
popped
it?
in while I was working on some stuff. Uh, I agree with Ray here, but I do like that wealth is easier to manage because honestly, if you wanted to manage wealth really easily, all you do is put your money into index funds and you never think about it and you just save a lot of money. Um, I do think stress is the more important one for you to be able to manage though, because it's not repeated exposure. It is exposure to difficult situations and problems that you need to figure out how to solve. And through solving those, you become a stronger individual, whether it's in business or otherwise. So repeated exposure to stress should make it easier over time. Like the first time you did a real estate transaction, I know at least for me, like I was stressing up until I signed the papers that I wasn't even going to get the property. I thought I was just going to lose my EMD and the money. So I put money into the property by having the carpets redone before I even owned the place because that was required by my lender because there was just exposed subfloors. Um, but being able to expose yourself to problems repeatedly will make you a better, whether you're a business owner, entrepreneur, whatever, or just maybe you work somewhere and that as you go up the ranks, just yes, you've learned more information, but you've been exposed to problems more frequently, so that makes you better at solving problems. Just my opinion.
Quickly, Chris, before you answer, there might be some new people tuning in and
Yeah.
they're not too familiar with maybe who you are. So maybe quickly give who you are and kind of what your background is.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, my name is Chris Price. I am a medical sales rep. I cover Washington, Northern Idaho, and Alaska. And my second full-time job is I'm a property manager for short-term rentals in Washington State and specifically San Diego, California. So actually, I do love this question. This is a really great question, Curtis. I think personally, I've always been big on mindset.
I think the mastermind that I joined a few years ago was because it wasn't just about building, or joining something and being a part of something bigger than yourself. It was also the mindset piece of it. And for me, I believe, I think, we all kind of touched on it. Ray and Dylan said the same things, is like, if it's not about what happens, it's about what you do, after the fact. It's about how you respond to the situations. And no matter where we're at in life, and anybody, you're going to have stress. It's not about, avoiding it necessarily. I believe it's, seeing it, and failing and learning from it. And the mindset piece for me is the ability to, not allow it to affect you, which isn't easy, but I think I'm going to lean more towards that. I think, the stress side is actually easier for me, at least now where I'm at with trying to manage 2 full-time jobs. I think being able to look at it from that different perspective of, life's coming from you, not at you. And it's, from the inside at the end of the day. So for me, I think, it's stress is probably easier to manage now than wealth in my journey personally.
And yeah, that's interesting. Stress is a inside game,
Yeah.
right? Whereas when it comes to wealth and all that stuff, you can hire out. If you have enough money, then you don't really have a problem because you can hire it out. Whereas with stress, you can't hire a person to take care of it for you.
Yeah.
And so, but with that said, it's often, especially as men and as entrepreneurs, we often put ourselves last. We're like, let's take care of the project. Let's take care of the sale. Let's take care of this, whatever the thing is. Let's take care of our wife, girlfriend. And then at the end of the day, we're like, oh, there's nothing left in the tank for us. Right. And so I also think there's that spin too.
Yeah.
I wanna add like a story that somebody might be able to relate with, right? Early in my days of like managing my properties, one of the biggest things that kind of came up to me was, I remember I had a tenant that didn't pay, and they've never been late ever, right? But they didn't pay on time and they didn't communicate. And I had messaged them, but wasn't really getting much of anything, right? And I started to jump to conclusions in my head really quickly. Right. And I started firing off ideas. Okay, let's get the eviction started. And I really started to work myself up. Right. And when I found I was doing this, I noticed that it was really like almost consuming my energy, my thoughts, and everything. It was affecting, my business and everything like that. Because I was just kind of thinking about it way too much. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, what I came across was ended up everything with being okay. They ended up just forgetting. But here I was like created this huge pile of like issues in my head. And it actually started impacting me more than it should have ever done. Right. So I think my thing is this, right? When things are coming, don't just assume, right? Just let it come. And then when it comes, handle it, right? Don't make it bigger than it needs to be, because you're creating all these other issues that might not even exist. So that's just a story that I've had.
I think this one was for Curtis a little bit, but Yasik is saying no shower, no stress, right?
Hey, listen, I have a shower now, man. I'm living in luxury. I don't have to leave my house. It's like craziness.
Don't even have to go to the Y anymore.
So on this though, but what is your definition of stress though? It usually vary from person to person, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I might be in a unique spot here because I actually get to teach eighth graders all about stress and the different types of stress. Right? There's acute stress, there's chronic stress, there's distress, there's trauma, there's even eustress, which is the good type of stress. So think of like as you're buying a property, or the example that I always give the kids is like before your first game, or before a concert, or before you ask that girl out, right? That good type of stress. And so stress is just anything that generates an emotional a response, right? It could increase your heart rate, it could make your palms sweat, it could make you nervous. There's all sorts of types of stress, but kind of like Ray said, it's kind of how we respond to it that dictates if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
While everyone is still here, I just want to remind everyone, Frank Old Guy REI will be going live at 1 p.m. Pacific to do his weekly recap of his Wednesday school calls. So check that out. Hopefully it's a little bit smoother than last week. Had a little technical difficulties, but he's getting there. So yeah, 1 p.m. Pacific. So check that out on his live stream.
Will Mikey be on that one too?
Mikey is not. Mikey is actually busy with his job. He's got a lot of overtime right now, so he's taking advantage of that. So I believe Frank is still doing it with his better half. Cynthia joins him, the virtual Cynthia, and hopefully he's out of the doghouse from last week's live stream. I think Frank got himself into some trouble last week, but we'll see. But yeah, there was a lot of chatter once you threw that in the chat yesterday. There's a lot of discussion on, managing wealth, managing stress, and I mean, as far as I think for you, Ray, the one thing out of state short-term rentals, I think a lot of people would be looking at as a lot of headaches, right? Because I think a lot of people, even just doing short-term rentals in their backyard, is challenging, and you're doing it remotely. And so, from the beginning, has it gotten easier for you, or how have you managed all of that? Because I think that would be very difficult.
I think the biggest things are there's definitely a learning curve managing an out-of-state Airbnb. But as far as things gotten easier or harder for me, I would have to say that as I'm starting to come across things that I haven't dealt with, I would say it's getting easier because I'm feeling like I'm getting more experience on things that are coming up, right? As far as the management side, I think people put that whole out-of-state thing as like it's incredibly harder. Honestly, the hardest part about an out-of-state Airbnb is the initial setup of the Airbnb, honestly. Chris can attest to this, right?
Yeah.
The management side of it, I would say, is pretty smooth, aside from like random things that shouldn't be happening, like a guest doing. I had a guest recently, like had their dog like chew on my bench for my kitchen, my dining room table, and then I had to have one of my repair guys fix it. So, but those are like, that's not catastrophic, right? My house is not burning down or something like that. But like little things like that. But yeah, I'd say it's pretty. I would say I'm getting my systems better, and it's getting easier as I learn these new things that are coming up.
Yeah, I agree to that. I think with out of state, when I first did it, and even being traveling all across Washington, Alaska sometimes, and I'm not physically in Washington or I'm not physically in San Diego, and there's something happens, let's say a pipe burst or there's a leak from a tub, which happened 3 times so far this year. And am I going to be the one to fix it? No. If I'm here in Washington and it's downtown Seattle, am I going to be the one to go fix it? No, I still have to pick up the phone to call somebody to go do it. So, and there's nothing that I can do besides physically be there. So I think there's, like you said, Ray, there's a different, it's a mindset to be like, mindset shift to understand that it's not you doing it all. You just have to have your right systems and operations in place. And I think that is something that I've learned and was, and was able to let go a lot of it. But there's going to be stuff that happens. Like I was literally in Spokane, for work, and I was supposed to have a barrel sauna delivered to a property in West Seattle, and they had a 18-wheeler truck, and they're like, we can't go down your street. So they're like, you have to come pick it up. And I'm like, I can't come pick up a 2,500 pound sauna myself. And they were trying to give me all these examples, and it was stressful. Yeah. So, thankfully I have, a couple virtual assistants, and they were able to find another trucking company, get it set up for me and get it delivered. And then again, they delivered it while I'm still in Spokane. It's sitting on the front porch. And I'm like, hello, I told you, let me know. And they gave me a 30-minute notice. And I'm like, well, I hope no one steals it because I'm not home. So a lot of it is having the right systems in place. And if I didn't teach my 2 virtual assistants how to be proactive with these kind of things, and yeah, it would have been a problem. But if you have your right systems in place, it's not very stressful.
Man, if someone could steal that off their front porch, they are strong, man. That thing is hefty.
Yeah, you don't need a forklift to put that up on a truck, or
Yeah. When you posted that story yesterday, I was ordering a forklift and a truck.
Good thing the address isn't posted on there.
Chris, like I have a question for you, right? Like because there's a lot of people who are maybe looking at out of state as an option, right? Maybe it's an out of state long term,
Yeah.
but they might be opposed to managing an Airbnb out of state, and you're a full blown operator. You know what I mean? And what would be your advice to them? Because I think a lot of these investors might be scared to even get started doing an Airbnb out of state.
Yeah.
Could you give them some insight on that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it depends on a couple things. It depends on where you're planning on purchasing, and managing. Number one. Number two, I think the other side of it is how much time do you really have to put into it? Because if you're just doing one, and you don't plan on doing more, it might make more sense to find someone local that knows what they're doing, and that, again, if you're like, for example, I have a lot of doctors that like want to do it, but and they want to like, oh, I want to manage it, and then 6 months in, they're like, I can't do it. Can you take it over? But again, those are in other areas where I don't manage, but I have a network of people across the country that, thanks to the mastermind, that I'm like, hey, I found someone in this area that's good for you. So I would say if someone's like wanting to do it by themselves and they are comfortable enough to say, you know what, I want to manage it myself, there are things you can put in place. There are systems, there are certain things you have to understand about Airbnb, about VRBO, to be able to make it less stressful, obviously on the topic of stressful. But for example, you're trying to buy a property in Seattle, let's just say downtown, a townhouse, and most of the numbers don't pencil when you try to hire a property management company, unless you already own it, or unless you're putting 25% or 30% down. The numbers don't make sense. The numbers that I use is whatever purchase price you're doing. You want to say, for easy math, let's say it's $1 million property. You want to bring in $200K, 20% of that purchase price on a yearly basis to be able to make sense. So that is, you can definitely get those in other markets. So I would say that's the number one thing. It'd be at least 15 to 20% of the purchase price in revenue. And that way, you're going to cash flow a little bit versus break even, or, because I wouldn't say don't buy it just for tax purposes personally, because, unless you're, extremely wealthy and you're making, $500,000 a year, and then you're like, I don't care about, I just need to save my couple $100K in taxes. But it's definitely possible. You just have to have the right team, the right SOPs in place to where when this happens, we do this. When this happens, you do this. And honestly, like interviewing your cleaners, finding local cleaners. If you're doing it for the first time, I would say hiring a cleaning company versus hiring an individual cleaner that just cleans a property here and there. Because they work with other property managers and they know how the system works. A lot of times you can pay them a little extra to be able to be the eyes and ears of that property. Like I have somebody in San Diego that is an amazing cleaner. She cleans for a buddy of mine down there that manages 65 properties. And I also hired a local ops person on the ground that when I need someone to go and do something at the property, they go. So it's just about finding the right team and building that right team, which is the hardest part, but you can do it. It just takes a little bit of legwork. So if you have the time and energy to be able to do that, then I would say go do that. If not, then find a local property manager that you can work with for it. So
I'm not sure what Bitcoin is at today. Earlier I looked, it was at like 83. But Nick Lead Pray Huddle is on vacation. But he says he says no stress on vacation. Take profit, buy a castle, and enjoy life. So when Nick gets back, we're gonna try to do like a weekly wrap up on Saturdays. Stay up to date on the Bitcoin news and what's going on. But so I want to know what's going on because it's dumping right now. But I will let Dylan handle this question maybe. So is wealth actually stressful, or is the lack of systems around money that creates stress?
Yeah, I don't know. It's complex because like if you look at if you're looking at the placement of capital, that can be stressful, but that can also be solved by having the right systems to place capital. So, for example, if you've got enough money to not really do much, you can just hire everybody out, kind of like Curtis was saying. But if you're in a situation like you're starting out, like you're a newer investor, you've probably got limited wealth and limited, like no systems to be able to properly manage that money. And I feel like that's much more stressful of a situation to be in, even though it's a smaller amount dollar figure wise. I think once you learn how to start deploying money properly, or what works for you, not what works for everybody else. Everybody has a different strategy they're going for. I know a lot of us have been talking about this recently with like the small and mighty real estate investor style, the Dion style versus, grow 1,000-unit portfolio. I feel like there's a happy medium for everyone in between there. Some people don't even want to be a full-time real estate investor. Some people just want to have a couple and their retirement will be nicer. So once you can learn to plan around what works for you, I think wealth deployment is pretty easy.
What's interesting is when I had posed this question, I thought about it more. It's actually so interesting that stress and wealth almost seem to have an inverse relationship. You're the most stressed when your wealth is the lowest. And then when I meet the most wealthy people and that I know, right, things are paid off or they're, older, there's no stress to them whatsoever because they have their systems, they have the money, right? There's really not a lot of problems there. Now, that may not be their personal life, right? But as far as like their business goes, it's the lowest amount, right? And so I just think that's so interesting that it kind of flips over time.
Yeah. You know what else I noticed about super wealthy or just old people who are retired? They're probably like the most blunt and don't give a shit about what anybody thinks. And as I'm getting to that point, I'm getting to the point where I'm filtering and just saying what's on my mind. And I'm starting to realize I'm becoming like these old folks, you know what I mean? So you got to be careful, you know what I'm saying? Because you can get
Yasik must be super old then. But talking about old, perfect segue to old guy REI says it's hard to ask for help, even from your partner or spouse. We're inclined to want to protect or shield them from the stress. So, Chris, I'm not sure if you're married or whatnot, but Ray, I think you're the only one married, right?
Yeah.
Dylan, you're a fiance or not married yet, right?
Almost next year.
So Ray, what is your thoughts on this one from Frank?
It's hard to ask for help, even from your partner or spouse, when inclined to want to protect or shield them from distress. Yeah, I'll tell you this. I'll give you a story. Like when I was doing the project in Michigan and I was doing the rehab and my roof was getting all rained on and it was terrible. I didn't tell my wife jack diddly squat, right? Because for me, there's certain aspects to our relationship that she handles and there's things that I handle, right? And I know that if she's worried about the things that I'm worried about, she's not going to be able to focus on what she needs to focus on. So I guess I do feel comfortable asking my wife for help on certain things, but there's things that I'm willing to put the burden on myself and kind of just kind of hold that bag, But yeah, I guess, I do a lot to shield her from the real estate investing side, or she'd absolutely hate it. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that answers it.
I think a lot of that too is just they don't have the same experience if it's not what they've been doing. So they will make the stress of dealing with that situation significantly worse if you loop them in on that. And I'm like, don't even think about it. I got this handled. I'll deal with all of it.
Yeah.
Carrie, Charles's wife, says, in my opinion, I think wealth is a double-edged sword. One hand, you can relax and finally enjoy life, but on the other, you obsess about making sure you keep that wealth and don't fall backwards into debt. Who wants to tackle this one?
I'll talk a little bit
Chris,
on
all
that.
right.
Yeah, I think what I'm working with right now is with the short-term rental business. I'm not taking any revenue from that myself right now. I'm dumping all that money right back in, and it is stressful because it's like, great, I have the full-time job and I have this coming in. I could, you know, you know, use it, spend it, do whatever, go on vacation. But in my mind, it's always been put it back in. So it is a little hard right now, seeing all of it just going right back into hiring, an ops manager, hiring, potentially a fourth virtual assistant and everything. It's like I'm just seeing that money go out. But I feel like if we've talked about it a few times, if you have the right systems and operations in place to be able to, again, figure out what is your end goal and really hone in on that. I think doing it the right way, it is it's not as risky, I would say. I think that's where I am, like, with the money that I'm bringing in, a good amount, I'm putting it right back in, but like there's we're just building to that next level. So yeah, right now it is a little stressful because I'm in its slow season for STRs. January and February are probably going to be the lowest, and I've hired more people on now, so it's part of it. But I think if you have the right system in place to be able to mitigate that risk, I think you're on the right boat. So
Can I add something to that? Because Chris and we talk all the time, right? And we work together on a lot of projects. And one of the things I can commend is I've worked with a lot of businesses, and I've actually been a part of my county where I've kind of helped businesses with their situation, right? And watching Chris build his business and being able to build it like you are, which is I consider top down building, right? Most of us are building bottom up. We're the accountant, we're the sales guy, we're the whatever. But for you, you're fortunate enough, you have a great career and you're able to hire on and build the staff that you need. And I want to commend you, man, because one, a lot of people aren't as strategic. They'll go cold turkey and be like, screw my job, let's just YOLO this, right? And you're coming at it at a very strategic way. And I think that's honorable, you know what I'm saying? And I think you're going to find real great success in that. And I wish I would have been able to build my business that way, because it's definitely bottom up building for me.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, it was that you kind of have to get to the point where you can have enough money coming in. But yeah, it's I looked at it again, trying to build, like, understand what was my end goal and then what was my why, and using that to fuel the idea of, well, look, let's hire the right people and put them in place and create that foundation. Because if I'm managing 5 properties to 30 properties, I still need that team eventually. So it just makes more sense right now to strategically find those right people, put them in place, and then that way I can still continue to do the W-2 and work there. And then yeah, it's been a challenge, but in the beginning I was doing it all. My first 2 or 3 properties, I designed them. I had everything shipped to my house. I rented a truck. I went in and built it out. I did the wallpaper. I didn't do the paint, but I did everything myself. And I'm glad I did in the beginning, to understand and to see how much energy and effort went into that. But then I had proof of concept from there. I had to go to other owners and say, look, I did this. Let me do this with your property. And then finding the right team to be like, okay, take it off my plate. And I'm still just doing like the acquisition sales side of it now. So it's definitely been rewarding going at it this way. And I will say, I didn't learn this on my own. I mean, by joining that mastermind, I was able to see what other people are doing. And not a lot of, I would say about half the people did it that way. Some people are like, look, I can live off of this. I'm going to go full time at it. And for me, I was like, I didn't want to do it that way. I did the opposite. I hired my first 2 virtual assistants when I had 2 properties, because I wanted messaging, operations dialed in before I, eventually quit. So it's definitely the different way to do it, but I think it works for me.
Yeah, a lot of great discussion going on in the chat. But let's get to Nick's kind of, I don't know if it's really a question, but maybe Dylan, what is your thoughts on this? I think money stress from investing is a sign you're over leveraged, cash poor.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a lot of money in the bank, that solves a lot of problems. The problem and I don't know Nick's channel. I'm guessing when I see Hodl that he's a cryptocurrency investor. The
You
problem
said
that we
crypto, Bitcoin. You're gonna offend some
Bitcoin
people.
investor. Hey, I bought some. I bought some on the dip. I bought $500 worth, Nick. I'm getting in. But the problem we have in our industry, though, just as real estate investors, is it takes a ton of money to get anything done. Now, some of the strategies might be a little bit different. It sounds like you're running a Airbnb management agency. Still takes cash to scale what you're doing, but if you were to just manage a few by yourself, it probably doesn't take that much, and cash flows pretty well. But any business that requires a ton of cash input to get started and keep rolling, it can be really stressful, because the only way we can grow is continuing to move our money. So whether that's through refinances, or we just wait and save money from our job and then redeploy that into a new property. No, I completely agree with that. If I had a lot more money sitting in the bank, I would be way less stressed, because I would be buying my next property right now.
I think on this note, for my first house hack, the duplex that I didn't have a shower or a kitchen for, or laundry, I definitely was probably, as Nick says, probably over like a leverage. I put all my money in that I had for the down payment, and still it was pretty low. I think it was like 15 grand or whatever, but there wasn't a lot of left over. I had the minimum reserves that the lender would allow, right? But because I was house hacking, the reserves were able to grow exponentially because I didn't have to pay for housing, right? And so I think there's a time and a place, and it's probably earlier on in your journey where you can be that cash poor or that over like leverage, because if you don't get started, then you don't get the benefits of starting out. And to me, just being three-ish years in now, I'm so glad that I was over leveraged and cash poor for that 2 months where things were a little tight. Where I said, "Oh, if something goes wrong, there's not a lot of cash there, right?" But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be with where I'm at now. And so you kind of got to start where you can.
Can I add this, right? Are you even an investor if you aren't over leveraged or cash poor, right? Like the reality is, like, all of us are in a place that when you're getting started, that's what you do. You make it happen, right? And the reality is, it'd be ideal that we all had $100,000 just chilling, so it was nice and safe and whatever. But the reality of real estate investing is you're doing the best you can to acquire these properties, and sometimes it puts you in situations that's not the most comfortable. But in my opinion, when I'm the most uncomfortable is when I'm being the most effective. You know what I mean? And I don't know, I kind of like the stresses of that, right? Because when I'm just kind of casually chilling, I'm usually being lazy or taking my time. But when there's a lot on the line, I'm focused, I'm hyper aware, right? I can see everything in slow motion, it feels like. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
like the body literally needs stress to grow. That's why people work out, right? And so we can't really do that same thing in a gym. There's not an investor gym, so we have to go out in the world and make it happen and flex our investor like muscles. But it can be uncomfortable in those times.
So Josh Burdick does say, and those of you who do not know, he closed on his short-term rental in Florida. So I believe they're wrapping that up and handing it over to the property manager out there in Florida. But he does say, but there is some stress being older and not wanting to start over. And so just a heads up, Cody Davis does videos every Tuesday, Thursday. One of his recent videos was kind of talking about if he was starting over, like what he would do. So that's what we're going to discuss on our live stream on Monday also. But for any of you, have you guys thought about how you would handle things if you did have to start over right now? Dylan, maybe you?
I don't really have too much right now. No. So if I had to start over to get back to where I am, I'd probably just go work somewhere as a software engineer. That's what I'm trained to do. That's a relatively high income skill in any market, and then just find a way to live as cheap as possible. Whether that's like living in an apartment with roommates or whatever, to just save as much money as I can to go buy a duplex, triplex, quadplex, something like that, move into that, rent all the units out long term, and then just start stacking money to try to buy a commercial property. That I would just do exactly what I did over again.
Curtis, would you start with a shower? I mean, how would you start over if you?
I mean, I'm not too far from zero, so and so it's like, okay, I just got to take another step back, and then I'd be kind of where I started. So it's really not too bad. Maybe I would answer it differently if I was like 30 years in the future, right? But kind of with where I'm at, it's like, okay, it's not impossible to get back here pretty quickly, especially only being like 3-4 years in. So.
Jen says, I try to take care of things on my own, but do share when I'm overwhelmed. Some things that are stressful for me is super simple for Kenny and vice versa. Worth sharing sometimes. I forgot, Chris. I didn't. Are you married or
Nope,
no?
just me.
Okay.
That's why it probably is
Well,
a little
it's
easier.
easier. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's easy for me.
Yeah.
Ray, Dylan, you guys have any thoughts on this?
Ray's probably going to give the more aged advice on this one. Like he's got a lot more experience in this. I just don't tend to share anything because I just kind of let her do her own thing. As far as like go to work, she there's stress at work and stuff like that. So like you already got that to deal with. I'm not going to throw any of the real estate stuff on. But yet again, she doesn't like real estate, so it's not like I'd be introducing her into a problem that she'd be able to help me solve. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I'll answer this a little bit because there are times where I've been happily surprised when I've kind of shared my struggles with a certain project with Risa, and she's actually kind of helped me out, and she's just like, hey, if you're having that issue, why don't you go fly down over there and get it done? And I might have been hesitant or whatever, but like that little piece of advice from somebody who's not really like all in on real estate investing was really helpful, right? And just having a partner to be able to offload some of these ideas in your head or just release some of that stress that you have is super helpful, right? And I think having a partner also is something that some of you guys who aren't married or don't have a partner, it kind of helps with the burden, right? Because some of this stuff is pretty heavy. You know what I mean? Like these are some pretty big things that you're doing with financially, just the management of these properties, and having somebody there to kind of help maybe hold some of that helps me out all the time. So yeah, if you have a partner, definitely utilize it. You know what I mean?
Possibly,
Right.
I can't speak for Chris here, but Chris has a team, so I'll speak just for myself. Possibly, I don't feel like it's as heavy because I'm like, okay, well, if I fuck this up, then it's just me that has to deal with it. Like, no one else is going to lose lunch because I mishandled a thing, right? And so I think, and it's like, okay, if I have to go back to living how I was, I could do that for another 18 months. I don't want to, but I could, right?
Yeah.
And so I think also being by yourself can also kind of lend its hand to being less stressful because it's like, okay, no one else is going to be affected by a poor choice here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, if I could jump in. I know I want to answer the last question too about starting over, and it kind of ties into this a little bit. But I've been medical sales for I think 14 years now. Love what I do, but again, the goal obviously is financial freedom for me, and for me, it's not about the money. It's about being able to do what I want, when I want, whenever. Go back home to Philly and hang out with my nieces and nephew and, my sister and my brother. And if I was to start over, I would get in rooms where my dreams are people's reality. So for me, that was joining a mastermind, finding something that you really want to do and spend that money. It's not cheap. I'm not gonna say it is, but it's worth it. If you find the right group, you find the right mastermind that is people are doing what you want to do. That helped that will help a lot of those issues that you have in the beginning of the problems. I think that's where I was able to, jump a lot faster for me. And everyone learns differently. So there's different, groups that are, we used to have 3 or 4 calls a week, on this, and then we have one conference in Nashville every year, WealthCon, which was huge to see the people you're talking to and being a part of something bigger than yourself. So if I was to start over, I would have honed in and found that mastermind that much faster, because, for example, we're on a live right now. We're talking about, things right now. This is a group of people that you can bounce ideas off. It's like, again, being part of that, I think is undervalued, in my opinion. I think that's the biggest thing I would do is to start over. And it kind of answers that question too, because it's like, sometimes, you're not wanting to share with just your partner. Well, that's what you can share with other people in the industry, that where you're going and they understand it more. So I think that for me is huge, and I try to teach that to my nephew, who's already has the entrepreneurial mindset, which I love, and being able to share with him and be like, obviously he's 17, he doesn't know everything right now, but he's got an idea and a goal. And it's like, yeah, for me, it's finding that tribe, if you will, and, jumping in faster.
I want to add to that. Oh my God, this kind of reminds me, so crucial, Chris. I love that you mentioned this. When I first started in my photography business journey, the one of the things that I did, because I had a full-time job, I spent it was kind of ridiculous. I think I spent like $10,000 to $15,000 to go to the Bahamas to meet some of the best photographers in the industry. The guy shooting Spider-Man, the guy shooting Rolex, the guy shooting weddings with elephants in it, right? I wanted to be surrounded by the best. And it was funny because my gear that I had was less than what I was actually going to spend on this trip, right? And I remember Risa was talking to me, is like, you sure you want to do this? Don't you want to buy more cameras or whatever? And I was like, no, I want to surround myself with these guys, right? And one of the things I realized, guys, was this: when I came back, it wasn't like they taught me some crazy technique or whatever. It was really, what I found was I was busy comparing myself to the local competition, right? And I realized that I was like, the local competition is not going to be as great as the people who are the best in the world, right? And when I took that knowledge that I had and I brought it back to my city, that's when I saw the difference. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same way that I would think about real estate investing. You look at your local competition in the area, right? These aren't, some of them may be the top in the industry, but unlikely, right? But if you go to the top investors, and that's what I love Vegas, we're meeting everybody, right? Everybody's flying in from all sorts of places. And we're going to meet some of the top real estate investors. And we're going to come back home to our area where that strategy might not be being utilized. So I'm 100% with you, Chris, that like spending your money on a mastermind or just getting around like-minded people that are the best in the industry, that is one way to like really make your whatever you're doing be successful.
It's huge. I mean, it doesn't have to be obviously STRs for me, but like, you talk about local competition. There's some really good operators here, and some of them are now my close friends. A couple of them are actually in STR Secrets Mastermind with me, and they do an amazing job at stuff. But like, there's still 6,000 plus properties in the greater Seattle area that are Airbnbs, and there's a lot of them that are missing the boat and missing the revenue. So the little tips and tricks that I learned, some of it I was already like ingrained in my mind to be like, design and, building for the guest avatar. So that was cool to see what other people were doing. And yeah, I've taken a lot of that here. I have designers that are designing properties that are designing the best in Georgia or in the mountains up in the Poconos. So it's if I wouldn't have tapped into that network, I wouldn't have met them. I wouldn't have been like, oh, I didn't think about this. And then it's like you said, like you start looking at all the properties that I was managing here, and then I was looking at the competition, and some stuff pops out, but like a lot of this stuff that I, learned because on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, I was on these calls and I was seeing what other people are doing in the Poconos or in Texas or in Colorado. And it was like, oh, I have to do that here. No one's doing that here. So I think, being part of something else is huge, whether that's multifamily, commercial, whatever it is. I think finding that tribe and just really honing in on that.
Does that mean we're gonna get you to buy a ticket live stream like on Wednesday? For those of you who don't know, that Lauren Elaine, who's a regular guest, she bought her ticket for the event live stream, so she will be joining us in Vegas. But it also goes back to kind of what Cody Davis and I talked about on Monday, and he also talked about it on Zuber's recording. But he said, so we had someone was the guest with us on Monday, and they were saying, oh, they don't, maybe they don't have the money or the time to go, right? And Cody Davis was like, well, the reason you don't have the money and the time is because you don't go to these events, is why you don't have the money and the time.
Amen.
And yeah, and then so that's kind of his thoughts on it, right? And but Zuber said, I get it. Vegas it's a little bit different, a little more expensive, right? But just going to maybe even your local events, right? People are always saying, I don't have the time to do this and that, but the reason you don't is because you don't go to these things, right?
No, I think it's so interesting because there was a comment in there about the
which one?
Basically, you choose your stress, right? The lower the income, the lower the skills, or whatever. But what's so interesting is that I have coworkers. I think me and Chris both have a W-2, but I hear coworkers talk, right, about things that they're stressed about, things in their life or the money that they make, which I know how much money that they make. I'm like, okay, I don't know why you're complaining here. You're choosing to stress about the wrong things, right? Like a lot of teachers like, oh gosh, I'm years away from retirement, and then I have to pick and choose on, okay, am I going to pull a Dion and tell them, hey, retirement's not an age, it's an income that you can get, or do I just let them vent and do their thing, depending on what mood I am is, if I press the button or not type of deal. But I think people stress about the wrong things. Like, hey, the reason you can't invest is because you're stressed about your kid's sports, which, to be honest, your kid's not very good at. Or, and so it's like, I think sometimes people have to reframe what they want to stress about and be okay with the trade-offs.
Yeah.
I want. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
No, I just want to kind of add to what you were saying that Cody said, right? About, people saying that they can't afford or whatever, right? This kind of leads into something I have been feeling like, tomorrow is not guaranteed for anybody. You know what I mean? And it's not promised to us. And all I'm saying is, I think a lot of us say, hey, when I'm at a certain point, I'll be able to afford that and I'll be able to go or whatever, right? They kind of push everything off to some future land. But I feel like one of the things that I've realized about life as I've been pursuing wealth is you got to enjoy the journey now, not later, right? So I've been doing a lot better as far as like every single day that I'm enjoying my life and as I'm pursuing financial wealth. And like, if you're really debating and you're really into real estate investing and you're debating about, going to a mastermind like the ORAD event or something like that, I really feel like you're selling yourself short. You know what I mean? Because you're going to get so much out of it, or just any other mastermind that you're thinking about doing. Yeah, it might be a little difficult. You might have to scrape all your pennies together, but generally it's worth it. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's always generally worth it because you're going to meet somebody there that's going to help you on your journey. That's how I feel.
Or someone's also in the same journey as you and you don't even realize it, and then you meet them,
Yeah.
Nick Lead Prejado does want to remind everyone that Zuber wanted to quit real estate after his first one on Norris Drive. But the wife said, Olivia said, we didn't do anything wrong, and let's try again. And the rest is history. And he said that's the same for his life, right? So I think a lot of us probably at one point contemplating if we're making the right decision, right? Or should we quit and whatnot, right? So for any of you, was there like a eye-opening moment, or you just kind of like, I'm just gonna keep going? Was there someone that pushed you guys to keep sticking with, like Olivia did? Dylan, Chris?
So for me, it was my partner in real estate investing. He had been investing before I had started. So all of these problems that everyone that is not a real estate investor will tell you that there is with real estate investing, he was like, no, they're wrong. It's not that big of a deal. Just go ahead and buy the property. You know, a lot of people will say like, oh, you don't want to deal with tenants or like all these other issues. But those are just problems that they're unfamiliar with. And as somebody that had a bunch of rentals at that point, he was like, it's really not that big of a problem. Like the life you have on the other side of doing this is substantially better than what a lot of these people are living now. And your worst case scenario is you just have to sell this thing and do what everybody else does. So why don't you just do it? You know what I mean?
Oh, Dylan, I love that point. Yeah, because when folks ask me, they're like, "Oh, you're a landlord. Why? Like, why would you want to do that or whatever?" And you can't really say this to somebody without being rude. So I just don't say it. But I do think it. I'm like, hey, listen, if I fail, then my failure is your normal life. like, like you really can't say that to somebody. But that's the reality, right? Like, if everything that we're building burned down or we got sued or something crazy happened and we had to just go live a normal life, that's what most people do.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's why I don't get why there's so much hesitancy around starting. I get not wanting to lose money, but like you get to a point of being so risk adverse that you will never make any significant money. So, and if we all look at a dollar per year figure as a, you know, ability to retire, do whatever you want, then that's what we're chasing. I feel like people do get that conflated and they think that we're just all after money and money is the most important thing. And everyone I talk to, at least, what they want is the ability to be like, you know what, I'm going to go to Colorado today because I want to go skiing just because, you know, and they don't have to think about it. Or like, you know what, I think I'm going to take a vacation next week. I don't have to ask a boss or anything like that. Let's just go.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Ray, do you think stress is a bigger barrier to wealth than income?
Do I think stress is a bigger barrier to wealth or income? I guess it depends on how you deal with it, right? If you're interacting with stress in the wrong way, then yeah, it could be a much bigger barrier. You know what I mean? But I think it's attitude. You know, you got to fix your attitude. You gotta have your systems in place to handle that stress, and then I think it won't be.
Anyone else maybe have a different take on it?
Yeah, I think this is the combo that I was referring to earlier, was that stress is often the reason that people can't get ahead, right? They're stressing about the wrong things, right? They're stressing, oh gosh, I have to take the family on the vacation. Do you really? Like, do you actually have to take them to Disney World or, you know, or wherever that they go? And so I think reframing the stress, because I think stress is going to happen regardless of what decisions that you make. It's just, what stress are you going to choose?
Yeah. And can I just say this? I'm always the believer, like, you gotta enjoy every part of life, right? Like you said, do you need to take your family to Disneyland or whatever? In my opinion, if it's what makes your family happy, it makes you happy and whatever, then yes, they have to go. Right? But the thing is, you better be willing to do the work to be able to keep doing that, right? But if you're just sitting there just racking up credit cards to do it, well, you're not really putting in the work. You know what I mean? So I think there's a give and take for that.
I think part of that too, Ray and Curtis, is some people have this opinion that just because they've done something, they deserve something. So like, just because I went to school means I deserve to have a really, really nice car. and live in an expensive neighborhood because I was able to go through 4 years of college just like most people in the United States. Like, you can sacrifice a little bit to make sure you set not only yourself up, but everyone else up around you. It doesn't take that long. Like, most of us are talking about like 5, really they say 10 years, but I think like a solid 5 years of real estate investing, then you probably never have to put money into a retirement account again, and you're golden to retire. That's not financial advice, by the way. I have not done the math, but just from, looking at what, I projected on my portfolio 30 years from now, I'm just like, well, that's really all I need,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Josh has a good point there. The world needs normies too, and I definitely agree with that. With what I'm saying is not necessarily to hate on the normies. That's not where I'm trying to go, but more so, hey, normies, don't try to poo-poo on me, or don't try to change my mind. Right? I think two things can be true. Right? Like, hey, you want to live the normal life? You go to Disneyland, take the 2 vacations a year, pay for all the sports. That's awesome. That's great, but don't complain or try to poo-poo on me because we're different.
Yeah.
I will like the photos. I'll like the Facebook post. Great job. I just need you to like mine too. That's all.
The thing that I've noticed, dude, there's just no winning that.
Yeah.
Oh, people don't like looking at the reflection, right? They don't like looking at the reflection, looking at their life, and admitting that that person's doing something and they're not. It's a lot easier to just pull somebody down. You know what I mean? And the reality is that's the world we live in, and it's going to continue to happen. You know what I mean?
Chris, what do you think about this comment from Alex, the accidental investor, who runs the second best accountability group in school after the Pittsburgh Thursday one? But he says, let's not mislabel fear as stress.
Yeah, I think obviously in the beginning, it's fear of the unknown. You're not aware, you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day. And I think for again, going back to what I said previously, I think getting in the right rooms, with the people that are going through the same things, they're going to help obviously mitigate that fear. But yeah, I agree. I think in the beginning stages, it's a lot like it's more like you're scared to do it because you haven't done it. You get courage after the fact, not before the fact. You have to do it, to go through it. So I think, for me, the stress side of it is you're going to have stress. You're going to have the situations to be stressful, but it's all about how you react to that. The fear is a whole different ball game. I mean, a lot of it is really, again, all in your head at the end of the day. Because if you think about it, 5 years ago, where were you at? You were scared to get to the point where you're at today. Like, you weren't sure how to get there. That was the fear side. Stress is the day-to-day, the problems you're going through, and the ability to mitigate all that is just, again, in my opinion, it's all in your head. So.
Well, I think that's perfect for this one then. Now you kind of touched on, getting in the right rooms and things like that. But what is one thing that someone can do today to lower their stress without lowering their ambition? Curtis?
Oh, there's so many answers here. And I wish there was a magic answer. I can say, okay, everyone go out and do this. But unfortunately, that's not how our bodies or our brains work. You kind of have to find the thing that works best for you. Now, there are some things that science say that you can do, like you can work out. Some people like to color, draw. Some people like to go in the sauna, cold plunge, right? Anything that can kind of get you outside of yourself, right? And so those are some things that have been found to really help people. And you got to find the thing that works best for you, though.
Yeah, no, I agree that some people go for a walk, in the morning when they first wake up to de-stress. And, the whole mindset piece for me, how I do it, there's a, I don't watch the name of the book, but there's a book out there. It really dumbs down the idea of what meditation really is. Meditation is the act of being mindful, and being mindful is the act of being present in the moment. So I think at the end of the day, for me, how I do it is, 5-10 minutes in the morning, 5-10 minutes at night. I focus on not the thoughts that are coming in my head, just being aware of what's happening right then and there. And over time, and thinking is probably the hardest thing you have to do, in my opinion. I feel like you can do so many other things, but like when your stress is coming in, you cannot attack or attach yourself to those situations. You'll have to acknowledge that this situation is going on. But for me, reading that book and understanding really what this meditation really is, and whether it's you're just taking a minute to breathe in the morning and focusing on what you have to do. Over time, for me, that's allowed the noise, if you will, to be quieter, to where when something does happen, I'm able to recognize what it really is as stress or just, fear, and then just mitigate it that way. So yeah, finding that thing for you could be cold plunges. It could be going for a walk in the morning. It could be, not jumping on your phone when you first wake up. And I think that's a big thing that I've changed. Like, let me see what's happening. Who's emailed me? No, they can wait. I need to, clear my head and, get ready for the day. So I think for me, that's what works.
A buddy of mine, him and I were talking. His name is Colby. He was telling that his dad had told him something. I can't quite remember exactly the story, but I love the analogy, right? Imagine like a waterfall, right? And then imagine a dam. In life, like there's a point where we just let everything in. Like, the waterfall, everything's coming through. There's zero filter. I feel like if you really want to manage your stress, start filtering, right? And for me, that's what I've done. I've filtered every aspect of my life. Anything from what I'm consuming on social media, from anybody that I'm letting in my life, from just any of the BS, right? Like, I'm very good at like, hey, I don't like this in my life, out, right? And I feel when we're very young and we don't have the wisdom yet, we just let everything in and we don't realize how much that BS is affecting us, right? And for me, I think use filtering as a way to kind of help you manage the stress in your life, because it's really worked out great for me.
We do have a new live stream next week. We'll bring Hyder on to explain his comment a little bit further on the live stream next week. But Mick does say, if you have haters, that's a sign you're doing something right. Yasik says, fear of not trying should be more scary and stressful than trying. Charles says, fear equals unknown. We got to fix it each time. But then also, Younger says, or I did say there was a, Chris Webb says, do you guys think mentorship decreases fear?
Absolutely.
I think Chris, I think you said you're in a mastermind, right? So maybe you can touch on that too.
Yeah, no, I think it does, either specific mentorship with one person or, a mastermind, because everyone's going through similar situations usually, to some degree when you're joining it, or there's some people in that group that is going through the same problem. So I think two things. It's not just the one person that's mentoring you, but it's also the other people that are around that are trying to do the same thing, as you, to get that confidence to actually make that first step, because they're doing this exact same thing. I think that helps because you're seeing somebody else's situation. It's very similar to yours, and you're scared to jump in or you're not sure. Well, there's proof that someone else has done it from the mentor, and then there's somebody else, regardless if they're in the same state as not as you, they're going through the same problems, and they can help answer too. And a lot of times it's just, I've actually have, a bunch of close friends now from the mastermind that are in the same position as me, and we talk on a weekly basis. And there's sometimes where he's like, hey, I don't know, should I do this or this? I'm not sure. And we bounce ideas off of each other. So I think it's huge. I think joining a group is, it's both a mentor as well as the people you meet along the way.
I'll add to that. I'll add something else as well. I think at first it could actually raise fear, because depending on who you're around, you're hearing stories. You're like, holy shit, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even know that was a possibility of happening. And then now you're like all anxious about something that hasn't even happened to you, but you think it's a possibility, right? But
That was a little Dionism right there.
I guess it like rubbed off, but but I think once you're around them and you can learn, okay, these are just normal guys, they're normal people, and then they explain how they got through it, that fear goes down.
So I think there's people wanting to let you know, Chris, that mentors are important, and that's why you should sign up for the Vegas event. I'm not sure. Did you? Because you probably know who Rob Build is, right? He's kind of in the short-term rental space. From
What's his name?
Rob Abasolo.
Oh yeah, I know.
Well, he's going to be one of the speakers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
you know, yeah, he's kind of a last-minute speaker. Him and Zuber are collaborating more, but he's going to be speaking at the event.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Hey Chris, I ended up buying. Risa and I are going to Vegas, so
There we go.
don't know yet whether we're gonna RV there or we're gonna fly there, but debating whether I want to use that as a way to kind of.
Flavio heard RV, so he's going to hit you up. But Chris, I think you mentioned. Did you mention you had a teenager son? Did you say that? Or
Me? No,
Yeah.
nephew.
Nephew. Oh,
Yeah,
that might count. I don't know. Zuber. I don't know if Zuber is allowing 20 spots for kids, teenagers to attend free. So if you
that's
buy a
right.
ticket,
That's right.
but I'm not sure how much is available yet. I know Hyder is taking advantage of one, and
What's
some
the
other
date
folks.
again? February?
14 and the 15 is the actual event, the Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday's a holiday. Monday is President's Day.
Okay.
And then a lot of people will probably be there for Wednesday, Thursday. They have the Dion's, Denny's meetups and things like that. But the event itself is Friday, Saturday.
Hey, also, I'm looking for a crew. My wife and I are going to the Wynn Buffet. Okay, I'm gonna be hitting that up. You guys do some research on that. If you want to come join us, let me know.
What is that? What, you're on Valentine's night you're going, or no?
I don't know. I just know that I saw it on some YouTube video. It looked really good. I'm gonna hit it up.
Chris Webb would join you, I'm sure. Let's see. Oh, Hyder put the school link. Yeah, if anyone wants to join the school community, 67 pennies a day, 6-7, right? So I don't know how Zuber worked that out, but that somehow it worked out to 67 pennies a day. Let's see. Is there anything else in the chat we can talk about?
Oh yeah, the Denny's meetup is Wednesday night, Thursday night, and then if you're old and can't stay up, then it's one on Friday morning too.
Oh, wow.
If you're
Yes.
really young, go to both.
Yep, Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon is doing one on Denny's on Friday, and Chris Webb, he keeps talking about this. I don't know if anyone has been there, but he's saying Stacks and Yolks is the place we got to go check out to eat. So I'm not sure. Yeah. So he's excited for that. Oh yeah, Brandon is also bringing his daughter. So she's going. They figured that out. The school plans and whatnot. Josh Burdick says he'll check out the Wynn. Alex says he'll. So you got a few people. It looks like they're gonna join you, Ray.
Yeah, let's do it.
Chris Webb says, "Yeah, tell the kids 6-7." Anything else you guys want to discuss on this topic, or anything else you want to talk about? Or I think this was like I said, Curtis, you threw it in the chat yesterday's live, and there was a lot of discussion going on. I don't know if you guys ever recently saw Graham Stephan's interview too with Sahil Bloom, but he was talking because I don't know if everyone knows Graham's background and whatnot, but he's I don't know if micromanager is the right word, but he stresses out about a lot of things money wise, and I don't know if frugal or cheap is the right word, but Sahil Bloom is like, man, you have all this money, like why are you stressing out about these little things about like your repairs and your expenses? Like why are you like, so it was interesting to see like someone that has money, even they stress out about money situations, right? So do you think you guys will have maybe that type of problem when you hit your money goals? Like will you guys be worrying about these little type of things when it comes to money in a sense?
I feel like everybody has something. Like every wealthy person that I've talked to seemed to have like one thing that they were like really nitpicky about. Like I'm not paying, it could be like shirts or something like that. They're like, I'm not paying more than $20 for a t-shirt. What are you talking about? Like, just stuff like that. I think
I think he was saying too, like he doesn't fly first class, right, or business class, right, like or something like Sahil Bloom's like, so you don't fly first class at all when you have like millions and millions of dollars and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting, like how Graham just really is always trying to cut costs to some extent, right? And he's like a millionaire, right? A multi-millionaire, I'm sure.
Do you think the question there, though, is that people are expecting you to change because you have more money, but you just want to like do the same things you already did? Like, if I don't know, I feel like if I'm somebody that like tries to cut costs on a lot of things, I'm not just going to stop because I have a bunch of money now. It's just part of who you are. You know what I mean?
But yeah, so to Sahil Bloom's point, it's more like, but how much time, like by you flying first class and having maybe Wi-Fi and the luxury to work, the space to like, where is your time best spent, right? So if you can get all this work done and you yourself make this much money per hour on your business, right? Where's the money worth more, right? So that's kind of more Sahil Bloom's point, is where like you're trying to nickel and dime these things and causing stress in your life, right? Where your time is better spent somewhere else. And yeah, you might have to pay for these things here, but your money goes a lot further in these other areas, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of that, I guess, that transition, like you're saying, right? Maybe you got to that point because you were cutting costs and being very tight with your money, but then at some point you got to find that where is it worth more, right? I guess.
I'm a big believer in that in the first class. It's also a mindset, in my opinion. You're sitting around people that are probably wealthy, to some degree, and you can easily afford it. I've actually have an investor that I met because I was on the plane on my laptop looking at real estate, and he was like, hey, would just struck up a conversation. So I think, it's not just about, can you afford it? It's like you said, like, for me, when I fly, especially longer than to here in Spokane, like when I go to Alaska, it's a 3.5 hour flight. I try to get up in the morning and get there probably 7:30. I would take off. Well, that's a few hours where I can do real estate work and then hit the ground running for the W-2. So I look at it as it's just, you never know who you're going to meet. And again, same thing. You're being around the people that, for the most part, have the money, and who knows who you're going to meet on that plane.
I don't know if I'll ever not like a good deal. Like I'm still telling people about this chair I got on sale in August for $8. I'm still so excited
I gotta see
because, dude, it's an awesome chair. It's one of those gravity chairs that like you lean back, the feet go up. It's normally 40, and I got it for 8, and I still tell people about it. So I hope I'm always as excited about a good deal. I think if that ever changes, something's gone wrong. But you kind of got to know with where to splurge too. Like I haven't looked at what the cost is for the buffet that Ray just talked about, but I'll go because it's for
you, it's paying for Uber, right? But once you get to the I'm gonna pay for Uber, then we know you've made it, right?
Hey, listen, I did pay for an Uber. There were 3 other guests in there that I was not expecting. I didn't know that was part of the ordeal, but
What you call it? Like the part that I have to remember is like I'm an entrepreneur, like, what I'm saying? And sometimes like when I tell people is like, hey, just work harder. Well, that doesn't go well if not everybody can just create more money with their job, you know what I'm saying? So I got to keep that stuff in mind.
I'll skip over a few things, but Josh Burdick is asking, where are you at in Spokane, Chris? But I'll also put Chris's Instagram page, Josh, so you can go hit him up there.
So I live in Seattle. I live downtown Seattle, but I'm over there for work in downtown, all the hospitals, as well as Coeur d'Alene in northern Idaho. So actually I just got back last night.
Nice.
Val Martin, firefighter realtor on Maui. He's on Instagram. He says the Wynn buffet is like $100.
Oh,
Curtis is like,
wait, is it $100? I didn't even know.
Yeah, per person. Yeah.
Well, my sisters are there right now, and they were sending me pictures of there, and they're like looking at the crab legs, and they're like as big as your head. So I like it. So it looks good.
hey, hi, Nicole. Thanks for stopping by. It's been a while. I've seen you a few live streams before. But yeah, so Chris's Instagram his business page is there, so go follow him there. Let's see, where was the last one? Yep, Die with Zero. Brandon says is a good perspective. A book is a good perspective on that. But Chris Webb also does say time is better than cash, but people have trouble giving up cash early. What did Dion say? Would I do this if I had 100 units? Hyder also says, to Curtis's point, finding a deal and saving dough is very satisfying.
I do gotta say, when I get those Qdoba, like they'll send stuff to my house and it'll be like buy one bowl get one free. Oh, that's nice.
Chris Webb does say stacks and yolks isn't $100. Just letting you folks know. And another thing, if people are thinking of using Uber in Vegas, another thing you can do is you can go on to Costco and buy the gift cards, so you can get $100 value usually for $80, right? And you just preload that into your app, and so you already have the funds there to use Uber. I guess you do need a signal though to get Uber, which Curtis apparently let us know that some places do not have signal to get an Uber.
Mark,
Yes.
let's do the interviews, kind of like what Dion and Mike. I'll hold the camera for you, and you interview people on the strip. You down?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to carry a stool with me though to stand on, but yeah, we can do that.
Okay, I'll be your video guy, because I felt bad all year last year. You had it all in your backpack. You never pulled it out. I'm gonna help you out.
Well,
Oh,
honestly,
time out.
just
Don't take it back. He had his purse he was carrying around. And,
it's a satchel,
oh,
like a wolf pack. Okay. So you know what? To bringing up hangover on that point, that was kind of what was brought up yesterday. So Emily, she's new to school. She has a big YouTube channel, her DIY one, but she's also trying to get her real estate one growing. But she's in Wyoming, and she's thinking about investing out of state, and that's what her husband kind of told her, right? But did you die, right? So she's kind of on the fence of going out of state investing, and the husband's like, yeah, but did you die from it, right? So that wasn't the hangover, and that is kind of the joke going around now, right? So even talking about getting started or doing something new, right? But did you die? Hyder is saying tech Lyft has been easy enough for him though, so he's a tech tard. He said Lyft has been better. Have any of you read the book Die with Zero? I forgot, but it Bill Perkins? No, is that the name? I forgot the guy's name. I think it's Bill something, but he was on Graham Stephan too recently.
Is it about like the giving pledge or anything like that? Like I know Buffett has a bunch of people that signed up to give all of their money away.
Not necessarily. It's about spending your money and enjoying, right? Like, yeah, you want to build wealth, and yeah, you want to be financially responsible and whatnot. But at the same time, your money, what is the point of having money when you're 70? How much enjoyment can you get from doing so? So he's also about like, I wanna be able to spend my money when I'm younger and do things that my body can still do, right? So it's finding that balance, and yes, there's a grind to build wealth, but it's also about not holding on to it to where at a point where you have all this money, and how much can you actually enjoy from, like Zuber talks about, right? They go on those cruises, and then you see like only like people in wheelchairs, and they need assistance to get around. So how much are they actually enjoying the cruise and stuff, right?
What's called? I have a question here from Troy. He's texted me. Chris, when's our next meetup for Airbnb?
It is Thursday, December 4th.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think actually, Curtis, you just had you posted something, right, on social media. Didn't you have a meetup you guys just went to, or was there something you just went to, some event?
Mark, I'm always going to things. I think in October I went to like 10 different events. So I'm always going to some, but I will speak about Chris's event. So even if you're not into short-term rentals, or you don't have any, and you're in the Pacific Northwest area, I still think it's worth you going to Chris's meetup, even if you're not interested in STRs per se. a lot of what they talk about can still be applied to your long-term stuff, just maybe not in the same way. So you just got to tweak the system for your long-term. And then the people that you meet there are really awesome. I was kind of unsure. Ray told me to go once, and I said, "Okay, well, I don't even know who this Chris guy is, but all right, I'll go." And even with my walls kind of up, I still was able to meet really cool people and learn some things that I'm going to apply to like my long-term properties.
Was that the one Josh Martin went to? I saw Josh taking a few pictures with you guys.
No, Josh posted about the Tacoma FI group that we meet typically the first Monday or Wednesday of each month. We are taking December off though, just for holidays and people are traveling. But first, typically Monday or Wednesday of each month, we also have a Facebook group where we put things out.
Cool. And then Josh is asking, where is the short-term rental group meeting? Like I did mention earlier, Josh just closed on their short-term rental in Florida. And I believe they are heading out of Florida. They were there for a week or so trying to get things ready, do some things that they could hang some TVs and replace some items. But I think they're passing the baton over to the property manager now. So even Alex is saying, send me the deets for the short-term rental meetup. So there's a lot of people interested now. So let's see.
That link, or do you want me to drop it in the chat?
If you drop it in the private chat, then I can put it in the
Okay.
message, and then then once you join school, you can also put it in there.
I see what you did there.
How's this then? How's this? When the Bears beat the Eagles next weekend or next Friday, then you can join school. How's that?
Okay, we'll see about that.
And then if the Eagles beat the Bears, then I'll pay
When?
for your school, and you still join school.
When? That's a win-win for you.
Andy says, FYI, my wife tells me that Travel Tuesday normally offers better deals than Black Friday or Cyber Monday per her travel agent. People, okay, good to know. People that haven't booked yet, there's some information. Maybe check it out. I know Mikey. I think right now it seems like there's a lot of people that are going to stay at the downtown Grand and the Golden Nugget. So it's kind of split. So those are the two areas people are looking at. I think they're about the same price though. So I think Mikey was looking at it. It's about for 6 days. I think it was like $740, somewhere around there. That's what he was looking at.
Whoa.
Okay, hold on. Let me put this in the.
I just put it in the private chat for you.
Yeah. All right. Let me paste this here. There is the meetup for the short-term rental. So those of you still in the chat, if you want. Hey, Dion is here. Dion tuning in. So he is on his trip. I'm not sure exactly where he's causing a ruckus, but he is on a trip right now. He's enjoying himself. I know he went live earlier today. I don't know what time it is exactly where he's at. But he could be waiting to go live again soon. So that's what he's tuning in for.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
I think I saw him live on YouTube somewhere around like 12 midnight or something like that. I was like, whoa, what is he doing live at this time? But I guess it's daytime over there in Thailand.
Yeah. And just a reminder for those of you still here, Frank Old Guy REI will be live streaming at 1 p.m. Pacific, going over the Wednesday weekly accountability group. So if you have a chance, at least stop by there, hit the like, subscribe, check it out. Yeah, this was a great episode. Anything else? Any final words from you, Curtis? I know you did come out with a recent video, right? What were you talking about in your recent video on your channel?
Yeah, I met up with a life insurance broker. We talked about ways that normal homeowners can use life insurance and how investors can use it to help grow their wealth.
Anything? When's your next video coming out, Dylan? I know.
I am editing it right now. I have 3 weeks of videos already recorded. I just got to finish editing it and uploading it today.
No editing.
Okay.
Just throw that shit
You're
out.
fancy, man. You're fancy.
Yeah.
No, say that again, Mark. Like no editing.
Just throw
Like
it out there.
I just want to say, Chris, I've been trying to get Chris here. He's gonna hide, okay? Chris and I have been talking about just getting freaking content out, and he's such a perfectionist,
Mm.
Can you tell him your strategy real quick, Mark? Just real quick.
So my strategy, I use you guys to come on these live streams. And that is my content. I just throw it out there. That's why I gotta just make sure your guys' heads are all fit perfectly, so I can, when I edit it, it does make it a lot easier. But yeah, I definitely am following kind of Zuber's blueprint. No editing, just throw it out there, and building friends on the internet basically. And you guys are the ones that provide most of the content. So a lot of times I tell you, hey, if you guys just come up with a topic, just let me know, and we can do this, and we'll just have fun with it. So that's why I was free today. So I messaged Ray. I said, hey, you guys, if you guys want to get some content, let's do something. I got time. So yeah, like I said, you know, you guys are helping me. Hopefully, I'm helping you guys. And so, Chris, it sounds like YouTube channel, school, and your Vegas tickets. We're gonna do that, right?
Got it.
Chris, if you come to Vegas, oh dude, that'd be lit, bro. That'd be a lot of fun. Honestly,
I'm just trying to see the dates. We'll see, because I have rotator cuff surgery in a couple of weeks. So
oh yeah.
Ah,
That's
come
nothing.
on.
I got that. You can just recover there.
Oh,
It's not.
if somebody wants to help, I'll have one arm. So sure.
Well,
You can hold the boom mic for Mark when we're on the script.
if you're out with the night crew, a couple drinks and you won't even feel your arm anyway.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
probably not the best feeling, but I understand where you're going.
All
We'll
right.
see.
So new channel, financial facilitator. So yeah, here is Chris's Instagram business page again. So if you want to connect with him, I'm sure maybe there is a lot of people. Like I said, Chris, honestly, I think you would be a great resource in the school community, because there is a lot of people that want more short-term rental and mid-term rental information and help with that. So I think you'd be greatly welcome if you did join school. But yeah, you guys, thanks for doing this. This was a fun one. I do have a call to get on in about 30 minutes to handle some business, but we'll see how that goes. Well, actually, you guys can stick around. I'll tell you guys about it after this.
Okay.
But everyone, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, check out Frank Old Guy REI 1 p.m. Pacific, and at least hit the subscribe and like on Frank's channel when you guys check it out. All right, everyone, have a good rest of the weekend.
Bye
Yeah.
guys.